Hi, it's Linda Kubota Byrd and Elizabeth HeartStar, and together we're the Astrology Star Sisters. And we're here today to talk about the full moon that's coming up on September 1st or 2nd, depending on where you are. And we're just going to explore the chart together, so it's going to be very informal. And and before we start that, I think that we're going to just quickly do a grounding with the Stargate, just so that we connect to the higher wisdom, we'll call it. So if everybody just wants to close your eyes, and we'll take a deep breath. So if you could just ask inside, we call for the energies from Mother Earth to come up and ground us, and the energies from Father Sky to come down and mix with the earth from the Mother. And here we'll just call for the presence of an etheric stargate. So just imagine sitting in the middle of a pyramid, and your intention will actually form the stargate. Stargate being sacred geometric structure that connects us to other dimensions. And now we'll call for the activation of the stargate and all of the stargates around the world as we activate the grid. And from here, we'll call in the presence of the angels. So asking inside, we call for the presence of the angelic realm. We'll also call for the presence of all the ascended masters who would like to take part in this video. And we also call in the presence of any star beings, the benefic star beings who are with us to help us in this time of transformation and transition. We also call in for the wisdom and the energies from the planet Neptune. We ask for guidance and wisdom as we share what the chart is telling us as we prepare for this September 1st or 2nd, depending on where you are, full moon. And so it is. Okay. So what we thought we'd do today is just kind of go into the chart layer by layer. So I'm going to do a screen share. And something that I just recently learned about, I was listening to Ann Ortley with Astrology Hub, and she mentioned this configuration called Thor's Hammer. And so what we see here, or the definition of Thor's Hammer, or what makes up a Thor's Hammer, is a square that connects two sesquiquadrates, which is 135-degree formation. So this seems like it's really, really powerful. And since we just happened to hear about it, we thought we'd talk about it a little bit. So what we're seeing is a square between Mars and Saturn, Pluto over here. And actually Mars close enough to Eris. So we have this square going on between some very powerful players that are forming this Thor's Hammer connection with the sesquiquadrates to the sun. So this seems significant to talk about. And I don't know, Elizabeth, if you energetically, how this feels to you, what would you say?
Well, I had heard of Thor's hammer, but I didn't know what it was until you shared this with me a little while ago. because I don't tend to use I can't even pronounce what it is, 135 degree Susky, whatever. I don't tend to use that, but I had heard of this and I didn't. And so, wow, now seeing it, how it's, that there are two of them. Is that right? There are two of them.
There's
One
two
for
if
the
we
moon?
asteroids, but because there's so many
Oh,
other things going on, I
yes.
took the asteroids out for this
Okay.
particular.
Yes. Well, just to know Mars, Eris square Saturn, Pluto, and that they're doing this formation to the sun in Virgo. In Virgo, being is desire, being an earth sign, a mutable earth sign, to purify and to make things flow and work in the world, and having this unusual, very, volatile. I mean, Mars square Saturn square Pluto, and with Eris, who is going to shake it up and make air disrupt. I mean, yeah. So yeah. That's now I see what a Thor's hammer is, and it's quite. Everybody's probably feeling this right now. There's so much tension and all the fires, and what were there earthquake? I don't know, hurricane, a lot of earth changes, and yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot going on just in general, and this kind of adds another layer to what we're feeling,
Yes.
and it's basically a lot of tension.
Yes.
So there is some help for this, and we'll bring that in because as we add the different layers, and we'll see that there's other things. So once again, we have a full moon that is extremely aspected with a lot of things going on. So it's not a simple full moon. As we go into September with the Mars about to turn retrograde, and there's a lot happening. So in some ways, seeing how this is forming, it's an opportunity for us to consciously use the energies from the higher frequencies or the higher vibrations. Because if we're not aware of these things and it just unconsciously works with us, it can be pretty disconcerting, let's put it.
Yes.
So yeah. So then I'm going to add some other aspects here. So we're going to go aspects, and let's look at the oppositions next.
Okay.
So let's say I chose that, but I didn't check it. Okay. So now we also see that we have an opposition between Venus and Saturn, Pluto up here. So, and at this point, I'm just going to bring in that we do have just Earth and water. We have 6 planets in Earth and 3 in water. So the only other influence we have with an element is Mars and Aries. So this gives it another flavor. We're moving out of the Leo time and this really fiery summer and moving into this Earth and water time, which is energetically, if you sit with that, it feels different. So with this Saturn, Pluto, and Capricorn opposing the Venus in Cancer, that's got a different feel to it too. So what would you say, Elizabeth?
Well, and then it squares Mars, right? It makes
right. It forms a T-square.
Yes, and so and Venus in Cancer, it's like, how are we going to feed our family? The economy. Venus is right, attracting what we need. It is money and love and everything we need. And here in Cancer, and it's opposite Saturn, Pluto, right? It's like what's going on in the world, and then Mars and Eris squaring it. Both, is just. Well, what we're seeing, they're saying it's worse than the Depression. We don't even know how the economy is, and I think that has to do with people. How are we going to stay in our homes? Cancer. How are we going to feed our children? Those the basic needs are like with all this that's going on in the world. Yeah. That's what
Yeah.
it's challenging. You know, T squares are challenging. And then
Mm-hmm.
Aries, Mars, um, and then you know the where it's pointing like the T square, you know, is the opposite to find balance is in Libra, which is about finding balance, which is about how are we going to come into balance
Mm-hmm.
and create, you know, what we need in our lives. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like all this opposition that's going on in the world. I know, Linda, we were talking about this before we started this, and we were like, what in the astrology is doing it? And I think this is one. And then to see Mercury in Virgo, its own sign, which
Mm-hmm.
is very powerful, the messenger, the way we think, and Virgo wants to purify and make things work. It's the, you know, purification.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's square the nodes, which I guess evolutionary astrology calls skip steps, right? And which
Right.
means we have to, you know, can you explain that? Because you see, I kind of missed.
Well, I do want to go back to this one because
Okay.
with a T square,
Yeah.
then we have the opposition. So we have this
Yeah.
tension going on between the Capricorn energy and the
Yeah.
Cancer energy. So this is,
Yeah.
we're familiar with this because we
Yeah.
just went through this with the nodes. But with a T square, then the escape or the way to get out of the
Mm-hmm.
tension is through Mars. And since Mars is in Aries and it's the only fire in the chart right now, then it's like, what kind of action can we take?
Yes.
So, and it's a lot about as we bring in something more and more of these aspects, then you'll see that
Yeah.
the action we have help
Mm-hmm.
with what action to take. So it's a matter of listening.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
the and going back to your question about the T
Skip
square or the skips
Mercury.
with Mercury,
Skip step.
skip step,
Skips.
yeah. Um, in evolutionary astrology, it's whatever squares the nodes. So this is pointing to the Mercury. So then that just means that we have to look at Mercury and include Mercury in this whole process of what do we do to take action.
Yes. Well,
So
I like the way that you explain the T square because see, I haven't learned it. You know, I wasn't taught to look at that, and I like that.
oh
I
yeah,
like that.
it
Yeah.
it's a place where the action could take place or
Yeah.
where you can
That makes sense.
move that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And going back to just as I look at this, going back to Thor's hammer, what Anne Ortley was saying is that this is where Thor is standing and he's swinging his hammer so that, again, we have the Mars involved in that
Wow.
as well as the Saturn Pluto.
Wow.
So there's just pay real close attention to what this energy feels like between the um, the big guys or the planets of transformation that's
Yeah.
going down and what's happening as we're tearing down our current structure. Um, and so this is where we're going to bring in the
Mm.
more helpful or
And then
flowing
just one
aspects.
other thing about the Mercury, which is trining Saturn Pluto, which is supporting us receiving the information to make the right choices for our action. and I
Right.
and you know, and that's amazing. And then that Mercury rules Gemini, which is where the North Node is, which is what we're collectively being asked to um, look at, to, you know, work with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So bringing in the flowing aspects, we've got this trine
Yes.
between Mercury and the Capricorn gang, I'll call them. And so there is, again, it brings in, okay, so how do we think about this? How do we ground this? How do we make things more practical? And also we have this trine between the sun and Uranus.
Oh. Oh,
We're
wow.
pretty close. I
Yeah.
mean, separated by just minutes. So this is another piece that, okay, so things are changing clearly that we have no control over. And how do we utilize, or how do we pay attention um, to what's coming through, what's happening. So in addition, the sextile from Venus to Mercury, um, and then this square between Venus and Mars again. So it's a very complicated full moon, as I mentioned earlier. But then we have Uranus sextiling the moon. So here's where I think, I love Neptune, having so much Pisces in my chart. But this is where I think the help is the Neptune moon, and to really listen, to get quiet and listen to the higher wisdom that comes through our intuition. Because if we stay in the mind, then it can make us a little anxious, to put it mildly. But if we incorporate, or we use the moon, the wisdom from the moon, the Venus Cancer energies, to use that energy that comes through the heart, or through the body wisdom, you might say, then this, I believe, will help us to negotiate this time of upheaval, I'll call it. Yeah. So what are you getting from all this, Elizabeth?
Yeah, I love what you just said. Yeah. And to see the beauty of that full moon, it's a harvest moon, and it's going to, I guess the day after the full moon, it will be right with Neptune. So it's going to be getting closer and closer to Neptune after the full moon, the exact time of the full moon. And so this full moon feels like with all this intense Mars squaring Pluto and Saturn is just, not easy energy that, like you said, that we can receive from spirit, Neptune, and really tune in and know that, we'll be safe during this turbulent time where there's so many just natural catastrophes.
Yeah, just to hold the field, and it feels like it's like, with Aries energies, what do you want? But then it's like, but listen for guidance, is how it feels to me. Listen to guidance, because we don't know right now, from our 3D reality, what's really happening. I mean, we do know that we have this destruction and things falling apart, and all of I mean, every day it seems like there's a new scandal or atrocity that's being revealed, with Pluto doing his job, you might say. And it's so easy to get caught up in that energy of, oh my God, and to get sucked into the fear and um, the low vibration of some things that are being shown. But to hold the higher frequency, to hold the higher vibration, to really reference the heart, to know what to do. Because we have a lot of help going on around us. So it's almost like a test.
Yeah, it feels like a test.
It does. It
Staying
does.
center, I mean, I'm grateful I'm in Little Sedona, and there's not a lot, but other places in the world with, and just people losing their jobs, maybe their homes, all of that. It's like, to know that there is support even in these really challenging times.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's this whole summer, or this last period of time where we've had all of the outer planets retrograde, then we've had this opportunity to really go inside, just being at home,
Yeah.
you know, and our whole routines being changed. It's a time to restructure, to rebuild from a more solid foundation. Well, I'm going to say of spirit, to be guided from the higher energies.
Yes.
And so, yeah, so look at your charts and see how you can use the higher frequencies, because we're being drawn into the low vibrations right now with the fear driving us, and to look at your charts and see how do I use the higher frequencies to contribute to this change, so that we co-create a more equitable, more loving, a more unity consciousness. So it's it's an interesting time.
Yeah, it is. And just to share that Linda and I, on the Astrology Star Sisters YouTube, we shared the Stargate and then an Arcturian cosmic egg technique, you know, that we hope will be helpful to, you know, during turbulent times, or if there's anxiety. They're real simple techniques that anyone and children can do too. So yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing that I don't even remember where I heard this, but Senna is about to station. She'll station on the 29th, so at 28 Taurus. So Senna, for those of you who are not familiar with Senna, is a dwarf planet just outside, well, I shouldn't say just outside, but outside of Pluto. And she's been, the term that we use for Senna is she's the path of the soul. So interesting that she's stationing at this time, and it almost feels like to kind of anchor,
Yeah.
you know, to bring some kind of stability to this change. And with Sedna, like Pluto, the whole thing is about surrendering, because they have our highest good, the soul's journey, the highest good, in mind. That's their purpose. And same with Eris. Eris causes chaos for the higher good. So it's like, this is the time. This is almost, I don't want to say this is the apex of the time, but we're about to go into the roller coaster. It's part of the year. And so it's so important for us to be able to hold a place of stability, and connection to hope. There's a beautiful quote by Maya Angelou, she says, that we have a choice between hope or fear, and choose one. We can't hold them both at the same time. Choose one. So I think this is a really important message to us, to hold on to hope. Don't feed the fear. So, yeah. Anyway, I think that's enough for right now. Just know that it's a time where we're being asked to be hopeful and heart referenced, and be aware. We can't stick our head in the sand, but hold the higher frequencies, and that's what we want to feed into the morphic field. Yeah. So thank you, everyone. and we'll see you again.